We have a debate going on. Which is better, a Bullpup or an AR-15? Welcome back to the MetProLite workshop, and I almost just had to break up a fight. So Eric gets back from the range, testing out his carry handle build, and a debate broke out. Which is better, a Bullpup or an AR-15? And I almost had to break up Eric and Tom, and it was almost a fight. It was almost bad. But anyways, we're going to settle it today. All right, and you know, Tom, and with his experience, he is one of the most qualified people to break down both platforms. We have two of the premier examples of each platform. With the Bullpup, we have the X95, and with the AR-15, we have the IWI Zion. So, Tom, why don't we break down each platform and then dive into some pros and cons?
Okay, absolutely. So, in general, a Bullpup, just to make sure everybody understands, means that the magazine feeds behind the pistol grip, which means you have a longer barrel with a shorter weapon system in general. Okay, so Bullpups have been around for a long time, believe it or not. In the late 50s, they started developing them. The one that made it probably the most famous was the Steyr, because you saw it in Die Hard, you know. And a lot of countries were using it at the time. Saudi Arabia, Australia still uses it. When you were overseas, you saw a lot more of them. So you would see L85s, which not a big fan of the L85, which is Enfield, British. The FAMAS, which is French. It's a weird looking rifle, but it actually works very well. It's got a lot of unique features. The X95, the original version of this was called the TAR-21 in the 90s, mid-90s. And every weapon system you see is built around a concept. So each country had a need, and they were trying to develop something to deal with that need. To say which one's better is like saying what's better, the AK-47 or the Zion. That debate's always going to be around. All right. So the Zion, or the X95, is a modified version of the Tavor SAR. It's the original version that came on. So the X95 you see here has obviously been modified. There's actually a lot of aftermarket now for it. It had Picatinny rail on it. It was more flexible. You can make it shorter, charging handle on the left side, which is an advantage, in my opinion, from an ergonomic standpoint. I can charge the weapon without moving my head if I need a clear malfunction or something like that. You can change, this same platform can become a 9mm, it can become a 300 blackout, and it can also be a 5.56. So it's very modular in the way it's designed, and the features right from the get-go kind of made it a step ahead. The original SAR didn't have those. Okay, so just like the M16, M16A1, A2, A4, M4, M4A1, it's building on itself and it's getting better as it goes. So the X95 has that ability. It also has M4 type features with the mag release button, just like a AR-15 would have. Again, they're trying to take away some of that tactile confusion. The safety is very similar to an M4. There's a lot more that's a standard rifle in this than you think. You just have to work with it a little bit and then you'll get it, okay? Advantages of the AR-15. This is a heavier platform, but all the weight's in the back. That's another advantage to it, because when you pick it up, all you're really dealing with is a barrel. Very lightweight system. This has been basically worked on since 1956, so it is an erector set, the way it's built. You can change the barrel lengths, you can change caliber, same thing by changing the uppers and the lowers based on what you're trying to do. Different buffer weights. It was designed to be very modular, and the aftermarket for this is incredible, okay? These can be tuned to be extremely accurate, like precision rifles too, with very little work into it. You know, better barrel, better bolt, and you've got a precision rifle, hence where the Mark 12 came from. So a lot of folks are more used to, in this country, having the magazine forward. So the manipulations are here. So the debate isn't really AR-15, it's more traditional platform versus Bullpup platform. Does this have a lot of advantages? It does. What's the disadvantages of it? Well, when you start bolting things to it on a professional level, it's very front heavy, okay? That's one disadvantage to it. It's longer. So this is a 16-inch barrel here. This is a 12.5-inch. This is a 12.5-inch short-barreled rifle. And you can see how short the Bullpup still is with a 16.5-inch rifle. So when I start chopping the barrel down like we do, because we want to put suppressors on them, I start losing velocity. Does that mean I can't hit at 600 yards with something like this? I can, I have, okay? Does it have the kinetic energy that this might have? Is it a little bit harder to buck the wind at that kind of distance with a shorter barrel? It is. This is a little bit, it bucks the wind a little bit better because of the velocity coming out of it. So they all have their advantages, disadvantages. Again, very tunable rifle, very easily, a lot more modular. So the question comes down to which is better? And I kind of had this discussion the other day. It comes down to what you practice, okay? So I know some people that are not AR-15 people at all. They are AK people all day long. I've had students that have showed up to a basic Tavor class that have never shot a rifle before, and they just like the Bullpup. Shoots very well, okay? They never learned anything at a core level of marksmanship or how to manipulate the gun. So this is the first thing they got. They got used to it. They got very good with it because that's all they know. Same folks, like most folks in the military, are going to deal with this. This is what I dealt with my professional life. That, MP5s, a bunch of other different systems. This, I came in later on, 2014 timeframes when I got my first IWI SAR, started working with it. So it's one of those things that after you work it for a while and you put some time into it, it's actually a pretty cool system.
Tom, you neglected to mention the best benefit of the Tavor and actually a lot of other IWI products. You know what I'm talking about?
No, go ahead.
They come in OD green.
Oh yeah.
That is a major plus in my book. Let me just tell you.
You shoot better if it's OD green or FDE.
Absolutely.
So yeah, black. Who does that? But the IDF has actually been using these for a long time. If you've seen what's been going on overseas, you'll see a bunch of Tavors that are actually pretty old that are still chewing through rounds and doing what they're supposed to do. So it's a neat platform. Again, it's one of those things, you got to put some time into it. But once you do, you'll find that your accuracy, your time, very comparable. So both are great weapon systems. My advice is, which one's better? It's the one you practice with. That's the actual answer. It's the one you actually go out to the range with and train. I train all of them. I've had to teach people on a bunch of different platforms. I want to know everything about it. I want to know that if I pick up a AK, I can use it. If I pick up a G36, I can use it. If I pick up a X95, I can use it very efficiently and very well. So, but that was kind of my life.
Absolutely. The other day you were on the range running some direct comparisons with both platforms, and honestly it truly does come down to what you train with. Personally, I've had a lot more time on an AR-15 other than a Tavor, and so right now I probably would go with an AR, but if I had more time on the X95, that could change.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll be honest, I've had, I was at NRA, I remember this years ago, and had a Marine come up to me, a young Marine, he just got out of boot camp, and he actually was interested in buying an X95, and I'm probably the worst salesman ever, right? Because I went, well, you're going in the Marine Corps. He goes, yeah, I am. I said, don't do that. You need to buy that. And he goes, well, but I like it. I said, yeah, you do, but you're going to be fighting with that. So my recommendation with him was, because of his profession, to kind of replicate what you're going to be using on a professional level. Do we have law enforcement agencies using this? We do. But we have some folks that are, they're deploying in different places, so it makes sense to, manipulate the weapon that they're going to be fighting with the most. That makes most sense to me. There's a bunch of guys out there just want to know how to shoot a bunch of different things. There are some folks I know that don't like AR-15s at all. They shot this, they left the AR-15, they shoot this. This is actually my preferred weapon system, not just for close work, but I've had my other X95 out to 662 yards. I've had this one out to 600 yards. I do well with it. It shoots for what I need it to do. The other way to look at any weapon system, and this is something I've said a lot of times and I'll say it in classes, is this is a golf club. You have different greens. You want to have the right club for the green you're going to be playing on, right? I would say that, a carbine, short carbine like this is pretty much kind of your mid-range, does everything sort of platform. You want more accuracy, this can convert itself a lot easier than an X95 to be a precision rifle, long-range precision rifle. So I'll give points to it for that because it can be changed over to that. That's not what this was built for. It was meant for, it's a fighting rifle for the most part. I've seen people run them in competition. I've run them in competition. Matter of fact, if I shoot another one, I'll shoot this guy. But it's one of those things. You got to select, what am I doing? What makes the most sense? What kind of optics am I going to put on it? One other advantage I'm going to throw out to the AR-15 over the Tavor before we end this discussion, but there's a longer rail space on here. So when you're working with something that's very short, and you could have an AR-15 that's super short and you're going to run into the same issue. It gets kind of harder to accessorize it, put laser aiming modules and lights on it. Now I can do it, absolutely. I can put an LPVO on this and a laser aiming module and a light pretty easily. An LPVO and a laser aiming module is tough for this because of the short rail space. It's a short weapon. It's just the way it is. So that's one other advantage that you'll get over a traditional rifle, is if you got a bolt, then it's going to weigh as much as a saw. You know, it's going to be 12, 14 pounds. The cool thing about this is when I do run suppressors and laser aiming modules on it, the original point I had about weight balance, this is a lot easier to carry for an entire day and shoot at night with a laser aiming module, I have to admit, because it balances like a dumbbell. So it's actually a pretty cool system.
And don't forget, our Mepro More combines a reflex sight and a laser aiming module all in one, made for guns with short rails. So
yeah, the original version of that they had in the old days was designed for the Tavor because of the issue of it being so short. So that's kind of where it kind of came from.
Exactly. And Tom actually has classes on AR-15s and bullpups. I highly encourage you to check that out and get training and to learn more. And check out our video on that as well. Guys, thank you for joining us on this journey and settling the debate of which is better, a bullpup or an AR-15. It's the one you train with the best, and get training. That is so important. You know, whether you use a gun just as a civilian to protect your family, or in a professional setting, you have a responsibility to use that in the most effective way possible. So get trained.
Yeah, I don't know that we settled the debate. I just kind of put out some thought-provoking. Some guys are going to get on there, bullpup suck, you know, and AR-15's rule, and other guys are going to be like, Tavor's the best thing ever. My suggestion to you is, if you ever learn a new platform, if you're ever interested in investing your time, don't shoot something once, twice, you know, do three manipulations and think you know it. Like I said, it takes a couple hours and then you figure it out. I'll be honest with you, if you are transitioning from a AR-15 and you want to try out a bullpup, it's probably one of the easiest to get into, because the layout of the controls are so similar to that, minus the magazine. Everything else is very similar. So, you know, give it a try, but give it a legit try. Don't just try it once and go, it's terrible. You got to actually work through it. Again, they're designed around a specific purpose.
Yep.
So.
Definitely leave a comment on which one that you would prefer to go with, for sure. And with that, thank you so much for watching, guys.